Hey there, it's Imu. Today I like to diverge a little bit. So instead of talking about calligraphy technique, I like to talk about Lantingji Xu. So by direct translation, Lanting is actually the name of a place which is now in Shaoxing, Zhejiang province in China. And Ji means collection and Xu means preface. So if you sum them up, it means it's a preface of a collection of things made at Lanting, this place, right? So actually it's a collection of poems, and later I will talk about more details of it. So why do I want to pick this topic in particular? Because in my mind it is very important. Let me give you 3 fun facts. Fact number 1, if you ask a Chinese who has been to high school and you ask them, do you know Lantingji Xu? And I think 99% would say yes, because Lantingji Xu was in the Chinese class textbook on the first year of high school, and it needs to be recited for every student. Okay, so there must be some reason that people want the students to recite this, right? So content-wise, it should be rich. And later I will do the translation and let you guys know what Lantingji Xu is about. So why people love it so much content-wise. Fact number 2. So this Lantingji Xu was written by Wang Xizhi. Wang Xizhi has a lot of work, right? Artwork. But this one in particular was known as the #1 running script or semi-cursive script, depends on how you call it. The #1 running script in Chinese history. So it's not just #1 in year 2020, #1 in this decade. It's like #1 in the Chinese history. It's like over several thousands of years. So that's pretty unbelievable to me. Like, if you say like this YouTube video is gonna be loved by a lot of people in 1,000 years, I will be so happy in heaven, you know. I will be like
2,000 years later.
Out of imagination. Yeah, I wouldn't asking this much for myself. Fact number 3 is that it's not just loved by ordinary people like me, right? It's also loved by so many emperors in so many dynasties. Like in Qing dynasty, Qianlong and Kangxi, they've all practiced Lantingji Xu themselves. And also we even have the practice paper of this emperors. Like they will relax. I don't know. I think they do this for relaxation, right? They will relax themselves by practicing Lantingji Xu. So before going to the direct translation, let me back you up with the background of the story. Wang Xizhi at that time was the governor of Lanting, so he was pretty popular in terms of the calligraphy, right? And also he's one of the superstar literati at that time, and he's also a governor, so of course he has a lot of friends. And at the age of 50, in year 353, I think, yeah, it's 353, he held a party at Lanting. In the party, a lot of literati was invited, and they gathered together, had a lot of fun, right? One event is a drinking contest. Well, it's like a poem/drinking contest. So what's the rule? The rule is that they all sat by the banks of the river, and then a lot of cups filled with wine was drifted from upstream to the downstream, right? And they are sitting by the downstream. If the cup stops close to a guest, then the guest needs to create a poem on spot, like immediately. If he cannot create a poem, then he needs to drink the wine. So that's the rule, right? Seems pretty fun. So this party keeps on for a while, and at the end of the day, these guests created 30-ish poems. And of course, they had a lot of drinks, and everyone's having fun. And Wang Xizhi decided to collect these poems together, and they all together is called the Lantingji, right? Ji means collection. It's a collection of all these 30-ish poems at Lanting. But people say, hey, so you organized this party, you'd better make it a preface, right? So Wang Xizhi wrote a preface for this collection. That's why it's called Lantingji Xu. So when we say Lantingji Xu, it means specifically the preface that Wang Xizhi wrote. Wang Xizhi at that time was pretty drunk, right? Because after drinking a lot that day, he is not sober anymore, but he was put on spot and needs to write this preface. But at that time, although he was pretty high, he also had a lot of thoughts and he's pretty emotional. So he grabbed the brush and wrote the preface on the spot pretty fast. And because he was drunk, so there are a lot of corrections there. For example, he wanted to wrote this, but instead he wrote that, so he need to correct it. And also like here, he forgot to add 2 words, so later he add 2 words. So after this party was done, the other day when Wang Xizhi woke up, he feels like, maybe I should rewrite this Lantingji Xu, this preface, because, well, I don't really want the correction, right? So he rewrote it several times, but every time he didn't think that the sober version is as good as the original version that he wrote when he was drunk. So after several trials, he gave up, and people all agreed like the one that was created when he was drunk is actually the best version. That's why till now, when we look at the Lantingji Xu, there's still a lot of correction there. Well, this is not the whole story. There's a sad twist after 200 years, like in year 500 or so. At that time, it's Tang Dynasty, and the Emperor Taizong at that time was a super admirer of Wang Xizhi, and he collected nearly 2,000 artwork by Wang Xizhi. He always wanted to own Lantingji Xu by himself, so at that time he asked his senior court official to Wang Xizhi's Lantingji Xu passed down to his 7th grandson Zhiyong, and Zhiyong gave this to a monk. And then the monk was cheated by the emperor's senior court official. So the senior court official somehow obtained the trust from the monk. For example, I guess he pretended to be his friends, right? And say, hey, monk, I'm your friend now. Can you show me the original work from Wang Xizhi, like the Lantingji Xu? And the monk was like, yeah, we're friends, let me show you. And then he showed it to him and he was like, wow, this is so great. And then at night he sneakily steal it away. I don't know, that's my guess. But this is the most widespread story or anecdote of how this Taizong, Tang Taizong, like in Tang Dynasty, the emperor got this original. And then the Taizong very selfishly wanted to own this work by himself. So even after he died, he even bring this original work to his tomb. Well, I don't want to judge him saying that he's selfish. Of course, it's selfish, but if I'm a super big fan of someone, then I might also want to own his work or her work even after I die, right? Because I feel like, oh, I can bring it to the heaven or something. So yeah, let's not judge him, but definitely he take the original work to his tomb. Right now, the tomb is still underneath, and what we know is that it's complete. No one have ever opened it. So I think in some sense, Lantingji Xu is still there, might be complete because no one touched it and the tomb is closed, fine there. But I don't know. I do hope that I could see the real work someday. It must be amazing, right? But I guess there's no way we could open the tomb because first it might be protected. Even people open it and then the oxygen goes in, it might destroy everything, right? Because there must be a lot of chemistry happening after you open a tomb that's been there for over 1,000 years, right? I always imagine what the real work will be like. Now let's go to the content of Lantingji Xu. At first I want to translate it into English myself, but I realized that my vocabulary in English is very limited. Maybe I could not pass on the spirit from the Chinese version. So then I click on the Wikipedia, and luckily I found that there's already an English translation here. 永和9年，岁在癸丑，暮春之初。In the 9th year of 永和, at the beginning of the late spring. 会于会稽山阴之兰亭，休憩事也。We have gathered at the Orchid Pavilion in the north of Kuaiji Mountain for the purification ritual. 群贤毕至，少长咸集。All the literati, the young and the old, have congregated. 此地有崇山峻岭，茂林修竹。There are high mountains and steep hills, dense wood and slender bamboos. 又有清流激湍，映带左右。As well as a limpid, flowing stream reflecting the surrounding. 因以为流觞曲水，列坐其次。We sit by a redirected stream with floating wine goblets. 虽无丝竹管弦之盛 although short of the company of music, 一觞一咏，亦足以畅叙幽情。The wine and poems are sufficient for us to exchange our feelings. 是日也，天朗气清，惠风和畅。As for this day, the sky is clear and the air is fresh. The mild breeze greets us. 仰观宇宙之大 I look up at the immense universe. 俯察品类之盛 I look down at my myriad work of poetry. 所以由目骋怀，足以及视听之娱，幸可乐也。As our eyes wander, so do our minds too. Indeed, it is a pure delight for all our senses. 夫人之相与，俯仰一时 Acquaintance will quickly span a lifetime. 或取诸怀抱，勿言一室之内。Some will share their ambitions in the chamber, 或因寄所托，放浪形骸之外。Others may indulge into diverse interests and pursuits. 虽取舍万殊，境造不同。The choices are plenty, and our temperaments vary. 当其心于所欲，暂得于己，快然自足。We enjoy the momentary satisfaction when pleasure regales us. 不知老之将至 but we hardly realize how fast we will grow. 及其所之既倦，情随事迁，感慨昔之矣。When we become tired of our desires and the circumstances change, grief will arise. 向之所欣，俯仰之间，以为陈迹。What previously gratified us will be in the past. 犹不能不以之心怀 We cannot help but to mourn. 况修断水化，终期于尽。Whether life is long or short, there's always an end. 古人云 As the ancient said, 死生亦大矣。Birth and death are two ultimate events. 其不痛哉 How agonizing. 每览昔人心感之有，若何以泣 Reading the past compositions, I can recognize the same melancholy from the ancients. 未尝不临文嗟悼，不能喻之于怀 I can only lament without being able to verbalize my feelings. 故知一死生为虚诞 It is absurd to equate life and death. 其朋伤为枉作 And it is equally foolish to think that longevity is the same as the short-lived. 后之视今 The future generations will look upon us. 亦犹今之视兮 Just like we look upon our past. 悲夫 How sad. 故列叙时人录其所述 Hence we record the people presented here today and their works. 虽世书是异 Even though time and circumstances will be different. 所以心怀其志一也 The feeling expressed will remain unchanged. 后之览者亦将有感于斯文 The future readers shall also emphasize the same by reading this poem collection. I don't know how you guys take this preface, but the last sentence touched me most. The future readers shall also emphasize the same by reading this poems collection. 后之览者亦将有感于斯文 I can totally feel the sadness after the extreme joy that is experienced by the guests and also by Wang Xizhi. Because, like time flies, especially for the extremely happy time, right? You know that you're gonna be faced with emptiness or a little bit sadness after the extreme joy. If there's no sadness afterwards, then there's no joy. So joy always comes with grief or sadness. Yeah, even after this thousands years, Wang Xizhi was right. Like, the human nature doesn't change. And I guess we just have to deal with it. I don't want you guys to feel depressed, like reminding you of those happy moments and how you miss them after reading this preface. I just want to say, well, even thousands of years ago, those people have figured out that it's normal to have emptiness or sadness after great joy. So we're just gonna take it and deal with it, whether actively or passively. Maybe we shouldn't worry too much about the emptiness after the happiness. And we just live on the moment. If we're happy now, we achieve something, we meet some new people, we are enjoying a drama, a TV series, just enjoy it and don't think about, like, what if the drama series end? I don't have more episodes. What if my friends leave? What if I break up with my lovers? Things like that. Like, just don't think about that. Maybe just concentrate on the time. And at least Xizhi concentrate on his happiness, and he wrote his joy into this collection, and thousands of years later, we can still feel his happiness, right? I don't know. Do you find any sentence click with you, or you think the preface doesn't make sense, or like, let me know. Yeah. Cheers.